It's Al in the Afternoon, Southern Minnesota's best and #1 afternoon talk show on news, sports, talk, KTOE.
All right, we're at 20 minutes in front of 5 o'clock. I've got Representative Jeremy Munson on the line. Had to dump out of the presidential conference, whatever you want to call it, on the COVID. Representative Munson, thanks for being here. Tell me if I'm nuts here, but I'm listening to this thing with the president. He talks about the COVID, and then he talks about wanting to wear the mask. He's going to wear the mask. He didn't always want to wear the mask, but he's going to wear the mask now whenever he's around people who are 6 foot. And if you are a reporter in that group of reporters and you get the opportunity to ask one question, is serious your question? I know you said that about the mask yesterday, but I think someone saw you in your own hotel yesterday without a mask. Why are we discussing this one human being with a mask on, not with a mask, when there's so many questions to actually ask about this virus? What am I missing, Representative?
Well, I think it's become very political, and it's a way for the left to attack the president by, showing that he doesn't care about people by not wearing a mask, or that's the rhetoric they're using. So the fact that he's actually saying he wears a mask, and that I think he even said it's patriotic to wear a mask. Mm-hmm. God forbid he say, if you love Trump, wear a mask. Maybe the reverse psychology will have people dropping the mask mandates the next day. I think they dwelled on it far too long. If
you're just a news reporter, you get so many opportunities to actually ask the president a question. Got it. We've got 4 in a row on the mask. There's got to be something else. There just got to be a better question. How close are we to a cure? It just kind of bothers me when you get to the 4th mask question. I don't even care.
Yeah, and I think that last time, so this is the beginning of his daily updates again. He was doing them every day, and it seemed like they were asking him just the dumbest questions. They were asking him about the Tiger King and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when it went. We knew it was time for him to end his daily press conferences when the press had no good questions.
And I presume, and this is, he's a politician, do what you got to do. His numbers have gone down since he stopped doing the daily press conferences. Why wouldn't you start him back up? Because he's saying that Biden doesn't come out of his basement. So you might as well do it if it works. And they're going to cover you, and you're going to ask softball questions like, what about your mask again tomorrow? I don't know. He's not hurt doing them. It's going to bother the heck out of me. I've got to tune in every day, but that's me. I want to talk to you. A couple of big deals. You guys ended session, correct?
Yeah, we sine died, so we ended, adjourned until required by the Constitution to come back this morning about 2 a.m.
Oh, so congratulations. So we got everything done. We have figured out what to do with the emergency powers. You got a bonding bill, the police reform, and what else do we want to get done? You got everything done. Congratulations.
We actually got through a great bill today that I think everyone is going to love. And this one would allow, your 16-year-old kid to go take their driver's test online. There's a backlog that's many months long. People are driving from the metro to come down to Mankato and seeing there's a 6-hour wait and all the pressure's on for their kid to pass a test because God forbid they don't. They got to come back and do it again. Yeah. So that bill passed. And now the DMV is going to be scrambling to get these tests online for our kids.
Now that's the written test. Do they still have to do a driver behind the wheel thing with somebody?
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
See, I like the idea
of do a video game, right? Something like that.
Well, you could link it to a video game. They got some very good ones, but I like the idea back in the day that if guys who do driver's training, if you could license them, if you will, to give that test so that all those guys that do that, hey, great, get in the car, you're in with Bob, Bob, ride with Bob, he'll give you your test. I like the idea of spreading that out because, thank goodness my kids are passed because that signing up and waiting 3 weeks, that's craziness.
Yeah, for the test, the practical test, I lived in Europe when I was of driving age, and over there they require kids to be able to change the oil and point out all these different parts on the engine and do maintenance so they can really get to know the car. We don't do that here. And of course, I don't even think you have to drive a standard shift. No. In order to pass your test. Everything's just automatic.
It's just automatic. And I think if anything, just changing a tire. People get on the side of the road and then you're dead and out of the water. That would be one they could do. Well, congratulations. So you guys did get something done. I'm very happy with that. I did read something. You guys passed a police reform bill. Tell me about what's in that.
Yeah, there was a police reform bill. It was pre-agreed upon with the Senate. So we knew that if it passed the House, it would pass the Senate. Mm. And of course, it wouldn't even come to the floor for a vote unless they had enough Democrats to get it passed. It bans chill colds. It changes. It prohibits this what's so-called warrior training for police, and it puts a lot of different restrictions on what they can and can't do. It requires police to intervene if a fellow officer is using excessive force. Honestly, it probably has some good changes for the city of Minneapolis police, but my concern was that it just went too far for all of our small town police officers, and where we don't have issues. And so I was one of the few that voted against the bill. I didn't think it should be a statewide mandate. I think it should be really done locally. And so that was my decision. There's about 29 of us that voted against it in the House, but it did pass the House and it passed the Senate. I think only 2 senators voted against it, and the governor has signed it, and it is now law.
All right. I read something about voting to let schools decide the best options for this fall. It passed the Senate. Did it pass the House?
Yeah, that it did pass the Senate, did not come up in the House. I believe it was a non-binding resolution. I could be wrong. I haven't read that one yet. Okay. But it never came to the House. So it's
gotcha.
Yeah.
So you had the entire regular session. You had one special session. Now your second special session, and we got the police reform thing. At least the bill passed. I don't know if anyone thinks they've got it all. Nothing with the bonding.
Yeah, the bonding bill became a real big pig at the end. There's some great projects in the bonding bill, but in order to try to get it forced through the Republicans in the House, they tacked on a much-needed tax cut or tax reform, really, to comply with the federal 179 expensing. This is for farmers that trade equipment and for small business owners to be able to accelerate the depreciation on new equipment. And we accidentally screwed this bill up last year and triggered big tax bills from the Minnesota Department of Revenue to be sent to farmers. And so we need to fix this. But unfortunately, the 179 expensing was only kind of halfway right in this bill. Plus, it took $100 million out of the reinsurance fund, which is used to reduce the premiums for private insurance. So by doing that, it would increase people's private insurance rates or health insurance rates by 20 to 25%. And it wasn't paid for. It was paid for out of next year's budget, which would cause even a bigger problem when we come back in January trying to cut our budget, our spending. So it was really poorly crafted. And of course, a complete violation of our constitutional requirement for single subject bills. So I voted no on that. Most of the Republicans in the House voted no because they wanted to negotiate a bunch of the peacetime emergency powers changing with the governor. Yep. They wanted him to end his peacetime emergency. But of course, if he did that and all of his executive orders canceled and he signed the bonding bill into law, the next second he could just issue another peacetime emergency and reissue all the powers. So it was I thought it was a very poor negotiation tactic. But either way, the bill did not pass.
Can we talk about that just for a second? Because this is what got me about the idea that was negotiable. This is just me. I'm not putting words in your mouth, not trying to talk to anybody else. But when the governor comes on and says, I need emergency powers, only I can take these, get this stuff done on time. This is what Minnesota has to have. Unless, of course, you'll horse deal with me on bonding, it just loses everything for me. It's like, wait a minute, you had to have this. This is what you need to make things work. Something about I'll take all the heat if anything goes wrong and everybody will take the glory. All these big platitudes. And it says, well, unless you give me the bonding bill I want. That just seems really weak to me.
Right. Really what it comes down to is it says your civil liberties are for sale. Yeah. And that's where it just became, it's no longer about a public health crisis. It's about power and about use and leverage and negotiation. It's kind of like when he said, you need to pass the police reforms or the people are going to come out and burn the city down again. That's a threat that just doesn't sit well with me. And it's why, again, with the lawsuit, the lawsuit result of the lawsuit could come out any day now. And so if we can have an end to the peacetime emergency from the courts, then we can go back in and negotiate proper executive powers and how that should happen. Because we're also going to hear about a statewide mask mandate in the next 24 to 48 hours. And of course, whether or not the schools will be allowed to have a local decision to be open or a statewide ban on schools opening will come out as an executive order from the governor here in the next couple of weeks.
Well, let's go through this. We just had his MDH report. They did the Tuesday one, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they did Tuesday, and we carried that. And I listened to the thing, and it sounds like things are going better in the state of Minnesota. Yes, we can, if we test 14, 16,000 people, find a lot of people that have it, but it's all under that 4 or 5%, infection rate. We've mushed the curve, as it were. We pushed it down because we've still got 115 people in ICU, but that's down from almost 300. What do you think leads the governor to say, I want a statewide mask mandate? And I say this with all due respect. There are counties that don't have any cases.
Well, I would say that's not true. I think that there's cases everywhere. They just haven't been identified yet. And the people that have these cases are not sick. They don't have COVID, which is the disease. They may have the virus, but many experts say that they're not even contagious unless they're symptomatic. Yeah. But your point being, it's not a pressure on the local resources. We don't have hospitals overburdened. Yeah. We didn't have a mask mandate in March, so why not now? Is your question?
That's exactly.
And the answer is because back in March, the health experts said the masks don't work.
Well, and
they've changed their opinion on it.
Yeah, okay, and they can. But here's my point: does the governor come out with that mandate? Schooley's got a couple of weeks to hold off on. He doesn't have to make that right now. But if he were to make a mask mandate now, when does your lawsuit get figured out? He would hate to do it the next day. The court comes out and says no, that's illegal. That would make him look bad. Is he waiting for that to come out? What's holding off? If masks are good, they were good yesterday. If masks are good, they'll be good tomorrow. This waiting, and I'll let you know in a couple of days. Well, then you don't believe the masks work.
Well, there is a political strategy to mandating masks now, and then having the lawsuit say that all his executive powers end, so that he can quickly scramble for the public to pressure the legislature to give him executive powers again, because a lot of people do support the mask mandates, and possibly even a majority or a majority of the electorate. But there's so many other executive orders that they should be concerned about, including the elections, where he could, as soon as he, has his emergency powers, he could just, send mail-in ballots to every single registered voter in the metro, and across the state, and do it by executive order. And the legislature can't do anything for weeks until we go back into special session again.
And you guys are scheduled, right? You have to go back August 12th? I'm just throwing that out there. I think that's the day after the primaries.
Yes, August 12th, we'll be back in the legislature again.
Well, sir, if you guys go back, will you be doing anything? I mean, are you just keep beating your head on these rocks as far as bonding and that sort of thing? Do we just keep doing that? Will they hammer that out before you get there in the next, 28 days? What do you think will happen if you go to the third special session, which really makes them less than special?
Well, I think that this will be after the governor has decided to close all schools and not allow any public or any local decision on whether they should be reopening. And that will cause a lot of, people to question whether or not the governor should have statewide executive power like this, or whether we should be making local decisions for our schools. I just talked to a graduate yesterday from Arizona whose college is starting next week. And so they can take, I think, 6 or 8 weeks off during peak flu season. Okay. That might be a great option too. Yeah. But we should allow the local school boards to make these decisions, and the parents and everybody else involved, and not just one person unilaterally writing law. But the other thing we could talk about when we come back in special session on the 12th is our budget, because we are in a serious deficit. Okay. And we should be making cuts or taking precautions for getting our spending under control so that it is less painful when we come back in January.
Makes sense to me, sir. I appreciate you coming on the program. I think the one that bites him, if he makes a statewide face mask mandate, there are just so many places out in the middle of no place where people are not feeling sick, like you say, asymptomatic. 5% seem to have it, don't have any clue they've got it. Those folks are going to remember if they have to walk around wearing a mask for the next 90 days for the next election, whatever it is, 100 days. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate you being on the program. I appreciate you catching us up as soon as that thing was over. You guys were up late last night. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Al. Bye.
All right. Representative Jeremy Munson on KTOE.